I didn't really have an idea for an intro for this one, but while I was looking for images, I did find this weird picture of a yellow diamond plushie with the most interesting face. Like, what's going on here? She's just like, duh. Not really the face I'd expect on a military general diamond. Imagine that scene where Paradox calls her a Claude, but with this face.
Apparently more than you Claude!
What the heck am I doing? Just start the video. So the fandom is still anxiously awaiting the return of Future, begging for any reveal scraps they can get their hands on. And for the most part, we're still high and dry in that regard. We did manage to get one audio leak a few weeks ago. Not gonna spoil what happens, but let's just say Steven's not doing too hot, and my anxieties over what's gonna happen to him are higher than they've ever been.
Leave me alone!
Pray for this boy. However, there are plenty more things I want out of Steven Universe Future aside from just closure for Steven's arc, and the Crewniverse have been very sneaky, dangling their plot points in front of our faces like that. Ooh, you want to see this resolved, don't you? You know you do. We know you do. Well, too bad, you gotta wait, ha. Well, more time waiting just means more time to guess what's next. And considering how open-ended a lot of these episodes and plot points have been, there's still many things I'm expecting from this series before it finally concludes. Will these things end up happening? Probably not, given my track record with these videos, but hey, it's still a lot of fun to try.
You got to try, you got to try.
So let's go through, in no particular order, 10 things that I personally want to see in the second half of Steven Universe Future. These will include arcs that were touched on but not yet resolved, characters that have yet to be the focus of an episode or even show up at all, and of course little things that would just really excite me as a longtime fan of the franchise. If you have anything you'd like to see, especially something I didn't mention, definitely leave your own list in the comments below.
Because we all know how well that worked out the last time we tried it.
So let's get things started with 10 things I want to see in Steven Universe Future. Number 1, Jaspers Redemption. I touched on this in my last video where I tied Jasper in with Steven's possible corruption, but even if it doesn't play out that way, I'd still like to see a proper face turn for our favorite Cheeto gem. At this point in the series, Jasper has literally hit rock bottom. She lives in a world where her primary purpose and desire, fighting others to grow stronger and show dominance, just can't be satisfied anymore. In Steven's own words, there is nothing to fear and no one to fight. And yet here she is, constantly training and preparing for fights that rarely ever come to pass. A true Jasperian tragedy. However, it would be wrong to just leave her character hanging after everything we saw in Little Homeschool and everything we know about her past. And moments like Steven asking if he could visit her again, and her responding with, "Do what you want," gives me hope that we'll be seeing something big from her in the episodes ahead. Now, the method through which Jasper will be redeemed is a really hard one to nail down. She has a stubborn sense of pride, a refusal to be manipulated, and a very thick head, even if you take off the helmet. This is why conventional Steven methods like talking and healing have proven useless on her. Personally, I'm still subscribed to the idea that Steven will only get through to her if he does a selfless act related to her purpose of fighting. Like, for example, tanking a strong attack to save her life. It would show that he sees her as a fellow fighter worth protecting, putting them on equal levels rather than making her feel inferior. And if Steven survives the attack, it would also show his own strength, which is something she clearly respects. I don't know, it makes the most sense to me. I've also heard some people talking about how Jasper shouldn't be redeemed, and how she should just stand as a symbol of how it's impossible to help everyone and some people just have no desire to change. Well, we already have a character in Future that embodies those beliefs. And trust me, they'll be showing up later too. Jasper is a character I was glad to see return, and it would make me even happier if we could see her redeemed. Number 2, Lars and the Off-Colors in space. They're the most oddball team of space adventurers to ever travel the stars, led by the most commanding and culinarily classed of captains. They've appeared briefly in Little Graduation, with confirmation that they'll be back behind a spaceship's wheel very soon. So how about we get an episode where we see them back in action? I know that Lars of the Stars was meant to just be a one-off silly space adventure with all the cheesy dialogue and introductory titles for the crew, and it was both hilarious and fun to see Lars so happy and confident, with a little bit of heartbreak thrown in for good measure. But hey, that doesn't mean we can't have another episode aboard Lars' ship, maybe with a different tone or subject matter. With episodes like Why So Blue piquing my interest in visiting new planets and seeing the landscapes and wildlife on them, I'd totally be down for an episode where Lars and the crew explore various worlds and see what they can find. Of course with Steven in tow. Looking at his current situation where his emotions are getting out of control and he's trying to find his own method of looking forward, it would make sense for Steven to want to go explore parts of the unknown away from his old life, in the quiet solitude of space. It obviously wouldn't be the solution he's looking for, but it would be a nice fun little detour that could fill an episode slot. Plus, I just really want to hear some banter between the off-colors again. They all have such colorful voices and personalities, and they play off each other surprisingly well. You can't expect me to believe that they would just tease them in Little Graduation and the intro and just never have them talk. Especially little Pat Paracha. Her voice is so adorable and her gimmick is hilarious. So come on, Crooniverse, let's hear the little orange sweetheart speak again. Number 3, the current status of the diamonds. Yeah, this one's pretty much a given. They take up 50% of this opening shot in the intro. White Diamond has a case of the pinks in the villain reveal screen. The diamonds are absolutely going to make some kind of impact on the series very soon. I can feel it. Exactly what they're going to do is still up in the air, but as I've said countless times before, I'm pretty sure the diamonds aren't going to take Steven abandoning them all that well, especially White. Up to the hiatus, we have not heard Steven mention the diamonds at all. Nothing about visits or catching up or Auntie's Day gifts or anything. It seems like he's just giving them the cold shoulder despite them doing all they can to make him happy. And when he finally does return after so long, I imagine you'd be able to cut the tension in the room with a knife. With how he's treated them so far, they'd probably assume that he was just using them as a means to an end. 3 tools used to clean up the galaxy which he completely ignored after they did their job. You want me to go even further? Well, the only major appearance of the diamonds are those vials of their essence in Steven's medicine cabinet. Their only major role in the story so far is them literally being used by Steven for his own endeavors without considering their feelings or concerns. If that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what is. And White. Oh man, poor White. Her entire worldview shattered the second she blushed, completely lost and scared and unsure of what she's supposed to do now. And when she finally thinks she's on the right path, her trail guide just takes off and abandons her in the middle of the woods, never returning for possible years. That's a punch to the gem that I'm sure she'd want to let out if Steven ever set foot on Homeworld again.
Come visit us in the palace, there's a rant waiting for you.
I'm both excited and kinda terrified to see what's become of the tremendous trio since the movie. Don't expect much of a welcome wagon, Steven, I can tell you that much. Number 4, a Garnet-centric episode. After the 1-2 punch of classic Crystal characterization with volleyball for Pearl and guidance for Amethyst, we have yet to see a story that really focuses on how far Garnet has come. I mean, we've had plenty of episodes in the original series that scratch this itch, some of which are my favorites of all time, but nothing major in future as of yet. And since we seem to be getting into the nitty-gritty of Steven's emotional turmoil, there might not be time for an episode centered around Garnet. But I do have one interesting idea. If it's true that Steven is going to end up leaving his home and finding his own path in life, it should be no surprise that the gems are going to miss him a lot. Like a lot. And of course at the same time they would be concerned for his safety. I imagine that Garnet will be trying her best to keep it together, especially for the sake of everyone else. But imagine an episode where everyone is asleep or occupied or something, and then Garnet sneaks off to a private area of the house, like her room in the temple, and then she just sits down and watches all the potential futures of what could happen to Steven while he's away from them. We would get to see future vision firsthand through the user's eyes, similar to Future Boy Zoltron, but way more meaningful. A lot of the futures end up being very dangerous, tragic, and painful, which is the last thing she wants to see right now. So instead of cycling through all these terrible endings, she decides to write her own little story for how Steven's self-discovering journey will go, just to comfort herself. You can even animate it in a style similar to Garnet's universe, which would be a nice callback and role reversal at the same time. Then Amethyst, Pearl, and Greg find Garnet and ask what she's doing, leading to her finally breaking down and saying how much she misses Steven, and then everyone else joins in and has a good cry. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to the idea of escaping into a world away from reality in order to cope with loss. And considering how on point the series has been with more mature and adult themes taking center stage, tackling an idea like this with the characters we love would really hit hard in the feels, and would also be a nice little dose of comedic levity while still retaining the underlying tragedy of the situation. It's a bit of a stretch, but I would love to see it happen. And speaking of a stretch... Number 5, Spinel's Return. I don't care how, I don't care when, I think we all just want to see our favorite bubblegum Babloo make a comeback in some way, shape, or form. Or in multiple shapes if possible, considering she's been living with the Diamonds all this time, who probably provide endless pampering, luxury, and affection 24/7, it would definitely be interesting to see how exactly she's reacting to this treatment. I mean, it's a complete 180 from the zero attention she's had for 6,000 years, so maybe it'll be a bit overbearing for her, but she doesn't want to admit it under fear of hurting the Diamond's feelings. She already messed up 2 friendships, I don't think she wants to bring that count to 5. Maybe she'll love every second of it and won't want anything to change, which might add to the list of Steven's friends who don't need him anymore. Will she feel just as upset with Steven for never bothering to come over? Or will she actually defend Steven by claiming that not all relationships are perfect, which she learned the hard way? I don't really have a lot of ideas for Spinel's return, and it might be a little too late in the series to set up a substantial arc for her, but considering how great of an antagonist and character she was in the movie, it would be a shame to not have her appear at least somewhat in this epilogue series. Oh, and she has to sing. Okay, no she doesn't, but hey, if you're gonna have her in the series, might as well have the whole package. Number 6, Bluebird's Revenge Plan. Bluebird Azurite was definitely a very interesting fusion to see in SU Future. A combination of Steven's 2 most persistent and puny rivals, which was so obvious that everyone in the episode was able to point it out. Heck, even theorists were able to point it out before the episode aired. Based on this duo's Team Rocket-esque track record of blatantly obvious disguises, lack of internal cooperation, and general incompetence, I highly doubt that they'll provide any real threat during the rest of the series. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't come back at all. Before Future was announced or even named, a popular theory was that a group of Steven's old nemesis would return at one point and try to revert things back to how they once were.
Everyone had predetermined positions of power and authority over others. Everything was organized and orderly. Gems knew their place.
But that theory has pretty much been crushed by what was revealed so far, so most people have abandoned it. However, I personally think it would be funny to see Bluebird at least attempt to try and set up a regime, gathering a few disgruntled gems and trying to organize an attack, but due to small numbers and their general lack of cooperation, they completely fail in hilarious fashion. This wouldn't be enough to make for an entire episode, obviously, but it would be a funny return for the duo and even a fun poke at a widely accepted idea a while back. Also, remember when I said a while back that the concept of Steven not being able to help everyone was already tackled before? Well, here you go. If Steven stays on Bluebird's bad side, then we'll have lasting evidence that everyone can change, but not everyone wants to. And as unfortunate as that is, it's a fact of life that we just gotta accept. Heck, even if Bluebird doesn't come back, that sentiment will still be there since they left Steven on bad terms. Maybe these two will make a grand comeback, maybe they'll just stay as a one-off, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Number 7, Cactus Steven on Mask Island. Aside from a few of my peers, I seem to be the only avid defender of the Watermelon Steven episodes. Most consider them pointless and a waste of time. Heck, some think Escapism is the worst episode of the show. Really? In a world where Onion Trade and Kevin Party exist, you're gonna go after this one? I personally love the idea of a bunch of creatures with no designated purpose seeking out their own destiny and then building their own civilization, complete with religion, internal conflicts, and new generations. Also, Escapism is awesome, don't judge me. The status of these little guys after the time skip has yet to be revealed. Did they die out? Are they still thriving? Has the island become overpopulated? Are they still 2 separate factions, or did Steven's push towards teamwork help them unite once more? It's impossible to guess since nothing's been revealed yet, but if the writers really want to give the Melons one last hurrah in the franchise, I have just the way to do it. And all it takes is a cactus and a continuity nod. After Prickly Pear ended, we didn't exactly see where Cactus Steven was headed after he smashed up Steven's house. It seems like he made a full sprint towards the ocean since he kept going in one direction. Now obviously cacti are not plants meant to survive in the ocean for long periods of time, but considering this is a Steven enhanced cactus, which is shown to be at least a little more durable than your average plant, I'm willing to accept that it was able to survive the salt water for long enough to reach dry land. And that dry land just happens to be Mask Island. The Watermelon Stevens are initially scared of this bizarre abomination that just stepped onto their beaches, but being capable of speech, Cactus Steven is able to string together the words and phrases that he copied from Steven to explain to the Melons exactly who he is and where he came from. They eventually accept this strange creature as one of their own and enjoy his company. Eventually though, the island starts to become overpopulated, and the Watermelons think it's time to relocate, so they make use of the boat technology that Steven showed them during Escapism to leave the island and try to find a new place to live. There's a spin-off for you. The Watermelons and Cactus Steven exploring the 7 seas in search of a new home. Like a plant version of Moana or something. Ho-way, 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 ho-way. I don't know the words, so I'll just say ho-way. Yeah, no, that's never gonna happen. Number 8, what's up with Freckles and Curly? I'm sure y'all remember those 2 Lapises from Why So Blue, right? The one with the curly hair and the one with the freckles and the ponytail. The second one did that cute little dance that melted everyone's heart. Remember that? Well, as nice as it was to see that Freckles eventually came around and decided to attend little homeschool, there's still a part of me that's a little nervous. We never saw any kind of final words or conversation before Freckles and Curly parted ways. So could this be a hint at some kind of ulterior motive or hidden agenda between the two that we're not supposed to know about yet? In my opinion, it could go down in one of 3 ways. 1, Freckles' desire to join little homeschool is genuine and the 2 of them just decide to go their own separate ways, which is totally understandable. 2, Curly is actually mad at Freckles' decision to go to little homeschool and might come back for revenge since they took her friend away. Or 3, the duo have some kind of plan to destroy little homeschool from the inside in order to get Lapis mad and show off more of her power again. It was clear at the end of the episode that Freckles and Curly were really impressed with Lappy's power, and were extremely obedient to her when she showed off what she was capable of. So a desire to see that power again, and maybe even more, would be a fitting motivation for these two. Personally, I hope it was just a mutual separation and we get to see Freckles just doing her own thing from now on, but if they are building up for something more dramatic, I'd be cool with that too. Number 9, some form of Stefania. We've had Rainbow Quartz, we've had Alexandrite, we've had Smoky and Sunstone and Opal and Sardonyx and even Sugilite, not to mention 2 new fusions on top of that. So where's Stefania at, huh? Where's arguably one of the most important fusions the show has ever done, and what kind of emotional relevance will it have to its 2 halves? Well, Connie has unfortunately joined the camp of beloved characters that have yet to do anything big in future. We see a quick shot of her studying for college exams in little homeschool, and that's literally it for 10 episodes. They must have an important role laid out for her cause, again, intro, right there, front and center. And seeing how this series is very determined to show how things can change at the most unexpected of times, maybe Connie and Steven's relationship might change as well? When Steven first met Connie, she was the classic book-smart, no-friends, big glasses-wearing introvert. She didn't know much about social interactions or making friends or anything other than academics and good behavior. So when Steven offered her a hand in friendship, it finally opened up a whole new world for her. A world of fun and rebellion and singing show tunes while swinging swords. But now that she's more confident enough to spread her wings and fly away, maybe she'll fly a little too far away? Maybe most of her schedule at this point will be taken up by schoolwork, meeting with new friends, and other outside commitments, leaving Steven without her for longer and longer periods of time. Then when they finally form Stefania again, Steven might treat it less like a happy reunion and more like a bittersweet reminder of what once was and what might not be for a while, making it hard to keep things together? Or hey, maybe Connie's life is just as stressful, difficult, and out of whack as Steven's is. And when they form Stefania for the first time in a while, they try to prolong it as much as possible, reliving all the old happy memories of childhood and not wanting to go back to their old stressful lives. But eventually they realize that this kind of thing can't last forever, and they need to return to reality at some point. But they promise that they'll be together again when the time comes. Whether it's difficulty staying fused or unfusing, I have no doubt that a Stefania appearance will come with a good bunch of feels added on, as well as a new physical form to boot. And lastly, number 10, a finale where everyone plays a role. Steven has touched the hearts, minds, and souls of a lot of characters. Human, gem, animal, plant, and beyond. So when the time comes for a big closer to the series, whether it be a Steven corruption, a transformation, a breakdown, or anything else, I just want to make sure that everyone who played a significant role in Steven's life gets to participate in some way. There are plenty of forms that this idea could take. Some shows do a song, some do a battle, some do a lend me your energy kind of scene, but for this show though, I think the best option would be for everyone to get together and try to talk Steven out of it. If Steven is convinced that he's a monster, they need to convince him otherwise. Remind him of all the amazing things he did for them. Use the exact same methods of peace and love that he used to help them. And the best part is that everyone regardless of power or heritage can chip in here. Human, gem, it doesn't matter. Everybody can say how much they love Steven and how much his efforts meant to them. Even the watermelon Stevens who can't speak could use their little T-poses to show peace. It's pretty cliche and corny, I will admit, but it would be pretty fitting with how Steven helped the entire galaxy over the course of 5 seasons, a movie, and an epilogue series. From local everyday problems to universe-destroying threats, from physical obstacles to emotional and mental ones, all done out of the goodness of his heart and with a genuine effort to show them the light. Well, show them the light when he's not saving it. Or attacking it. Isn't that kind of counterproductive there, Stevie boy? Stevie, man? How old are you again? While it is a load of fun to do these prediction and request videos, it's obviously no substitute for the real thing. And you can bet that I'll be there sitting comfortably ready to view the rest of the series when they decide to send it our way. Though, you know, an estimated day of release wouldn't hurt. Cooniverse? No? Alright. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Tell me some things you'd like to see in SU Future, and subscribe for more Steven Universe and cartoon content coming soon. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.